ever save me financially. No one's going to help me. I knew, and I was 18 at the time, right? I knew, and that was like the moment of truth. You know, like everyone has like a moment in their life where it just becomes real. Okay, at that moment, it became very real for me, right? Because I had knew, and then I guess I just saw the look on my mother's face. She was a widow, and then her, you know, we had this restaurant. We put the family money into it. My siblings didn't want to be a part of it, right? Okay, and it was really a really tough moment, right? So then, and then I said to myself, oh Allah, you know, if you are, you know, our Mola, our protector, you know, and this is it for me, you know. My father's gone. And I had a very charmed life. You know, I come from a pretty established, you know, middle class family, right, and upper middle class, I would say. But I knew at that moment that was it. Okay, and then what happened was we got a home loan and we got the restaurant up. Okay, and then I came up with this philosophy called ABC, which is always be cool. Okay, ABC. And if you're cool, okay, even at good times, bad times, be cool, right? Okay, and if you're cool people, and then that also meant don't be a pushover as well. Okay, when someone's trying to tell you something, be cool about it, you know. Just and then have a spirit of optimism. That's a very Islamic concept, right? So, but as far as that's where it all began from, right? Okay, and then my mother told me, listen, you know, just make sure you get your education. Just make sure you go to school.
Did you end up going to school?
So what happened was, and then I said, no, Mom, you know, school, I don't, you know. Okay, but you know what she said to me? She said something really valuable. I think they should really take this. And she said something to me. She said, school is not about education, she told me. It's about contacts. That was it. And then, because if you think about your own journey here in the school, right? The connection that you make in this school with these kids, with these relationships will last a lifetime. You know, and usually in high school, you know, you may have a few people you know, right? But in college, the people you meet here, these are your people. So then now I met my best friend in college, right? Okay, and then I got involved with, you know, college Republicans at the time, right? Okay, and then I started the Muslim Student Union at USC, which is, you know, I'm not sure if you guys know about the MSU there. It's a very prolific group over there, right? Okay, my friend and I, at the time it was just the two of us, you know. Okay, and it just, you know, I ran for student senate, and it was just a complete reversal because once I realized what college was, it's about, you know, personal growth instead of about, I mean, education involves also books and all that stuff, but I knew that it was all about personal growth and connections, and those skill sets really made me better as a business person, and also as a Muslim as well. So.
Yeah. So, you talked about starting KFC, and your dad bought you the KFC, and you start going there. For sure you had some challenges running the KFC, and what's special about this KFC? It wasn't just like a regular KFC; it was a halal KFC. It was a halal certified KFC. So, how did that? You know, you're a Muslim in America back in the day. Like, it was harder to start a halal KFC. How did you go about this?
Okay, so he's asking. You know, there was a lot of resistance with halal back then because KFC, you know, it's from Kentucky. It's not, you know, they have a Midwestern perspective on things, right? And meaning that a racist perspective on halal. I'll reframe it, right? Okay, and so I remember like. But one thing I did do, I did get in a position of franchise power. I mean, power. I got in a position of franchise leadership. Okay, and which meant I had some sort of influence, right? And so what happened was, so I just told them that, you know, like, let's do a pilot program for halal, right? Okay, and at first I sat on the poultry committee for KFC, right? And KFC has a bad reputation for, you know, with PETA and how they treated the chickens, right? Okay, so, and everyone know about that or no? I guess it's shake nose, right? Okay, and anyhow, so I just saw how bad it was being treated. So what I did was, you know, initially I was just buying halal chicken from places, right? Okay, and then from different halal places, and it was all right. You know, the chicken were too big. You know, sometimes back in the day the chicken was just so big, and the reason why they're so big is because you pay by the weight, and the bigger the chicken is, the more the more money they can make, right? So, and KFC used a certain size chicken. So what happened was, I went to this Buddhist slaughterhouse, right? Okay, and I told him I want to start doing halal chicken there. Okay, and then the guy said, okay, well, this, you know. Anyway, so then I said, I'll get my own guy. We're talking about like in the early 90s, okay? Okay, and then I want to make sure the chicken is 2 to 3 pounds in weight. because if it's too big, it doesn't fit in the fryer, it doesn't cook well, right? So anyhow, so I was cutting my own chicken, okay, and then I said, well, I need to process it in a USDA facility. So I bought my building in LA. Okay, it's a nice facility, and we're cutting it at this border slaughterhouse, taking it to our facility, processing it, and then doing deliveries to our own we had 4 locations at the time, right? Doing deliveries to our own restaurants at the time, and at one point, I became the highest volume KFC franchises in LA. And what I was doing was I was charging the same price as halal as non-halal on the menu. So usually when you back in those days, they were charging premium at whatever. I was just charging the same price. And then what happened was I remember people were driving from San Diego, Diamond Bar, Santa Barbara, coming to our restaurant. Okay, and then it got to the point where I think I started creating some problems, the jealousy among other franchisees. They said, "Who is this guy?" You're talking about vertical integration, which meaning cutting it at my own, cutting it at a slaughterhouse, taking it to my own facility, and delivering to my own restaurants, right? Okay, and then I was doing. Okay, I had a KFC Taco Bell, 2-in-1 store, so I was bringing halal chicken into that Taco Bell. And if you know at Taco Bell, the chicken's like rubber, and I'm just it comes in like it comes like it comes in a bag in a frozen bag, and you put it in a water. It's like pre-cooked, and then you warm it up, and you take it out, open the bag, and you put the chicken in. And anyhow, so then, at one point, and then, so I was very innovative, but not only that, but see, like a lot of things that KFC is doing now, a lot of companies are doing now, I was way ahead at the time. For example, I started doing catering, okay, and catering, I would come up with these different party menus, and catering to different auto dealership, because Cerritos is known for the auto dealerships. I'm not sure if you know this, but Cerritos sells the most cars in the world. Okay, so you're talking about one street on Studebaker. So more cars on that street than anywhere in the world. Okay, you're talking about millions of dollars in sales, right? Okay, and anyhow, so then, so I said I would go to these dealerships and I would tell, listen, to sales manager, can I deliver to you guys? Can I do some catering? And the guy says, can you do a PO? And I was like maybe 21, 22 at the time. I said, what PO? What's a PO, right? I know what a PO was. That pissed off, right? But okay, and then I said, no. He said, it meant purchase order. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'll do a PO, right? Okay, because I was bringing a receipt, expect payment, right? No, we're going to do a PO. I said, okay, sure. Then they would mail me a check. Okay, and anyhow, so and then I realized, let me start doing the auto dealership, and we're making good money on weekends, right? Okay, and then I would buy different restaurants. And I didn't care what the sales were. In fact, I'll buy a restaurant in north part of LA, another part in south in Huntington Beach area, and just different parts of LA. So and in fact, I'll buy the crappiest store possible. A store that's barely making money, right? But I just wanted different locations around LA. Okay, and then I would get catering, and I put billboards up, 1-800-CALL KFC. Okay, I put billboards up. Okay, and then so I was doing all kinds of catering. I was doing all kinds of just different dealerships, and then I started doing New Horizon School. And what's crazy was halal was a novelty back in the 90s. You're talking about rare. I mean, right now, alhamdulillah, we live in there's halal everywhere, right? But back in those days, halal was a novelty, and I benefit from that. It's just bringing into schools, to masjids, to New Horizon schools, to Moderator Academy, to different places. So. But I can keep going on and on. I apologize.
So what we learned from this is that you shouldn't give up, and even if you don't understand what they're saying, PO, pissed off, okay, do I go home and start crying, or do I give up? No, you try to figure out what that means. And so let's rewind a little bit. You were fortunate enough, alhamdulillah, your father was able to get you the store with his hard-earned money. But some people here may have very innovative ideas, and I have some innovative ideas, but I lack funding. And lots of Muslims here, there's not a lot of resources for us to get, funding here. So how, if let's say that what based on your experience and maybe people you mentored before, what is some ways that they can go about this?
Well, okay, right now I have a very successful brand. It's called Hearthy Foods. Okay, has anyone heard of Hearthy Foods? Okay, yeah, just one. Okay, so if you go on Amazon right now, you type up Hearthy Foods. I'm the #1 seller of gelatin in America. I sell more, and it happens to be halal. Okay, I'm also maybe top 100 in collagen. Do anybody know what collagen is? Okay, so it's so collagen. I think I'm top 100 now. I was maybe top 200. Maybe this month, I cracked maybe top 50 for the first time. Yeah?
MashaAllah.
A halal product, right? And the first time in the history of Amazon, a halal product hit #1 in the food category. And it's our gelatin, right? Okay, so, and then, but to answer your question about, like, if you don't have funding, right? Okay, the way you, like, I call it phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 when you launch a product, right? Okay, and I'll give you some examples of people that I advise this to and how it turned out for them, right? So phase 1, you just come up with a product. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's it could be anything. It could be paintings. It could be some sort of greeting cards, whatever, any kind of. It doesn't matter. Just come up with and if you could make one card, right? Okay, just come with a prototype. Okay, and you see if you can try to sell that. And it could be anything. It could be a T-shirt, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter the initial cost of that product. Okay, just make 5, make 10, make 20, whatever it is, and start small. Okay, so that's the phase 1. Come up with the product. Phase 2, make the adjustments. You're gonna get feedback from people, right? Okay, and whatever it is, whatever that product is, the phase 3, make money. So don't strive for perfection in the beginning. And I'll give you an example, right? Who's heard of Kanafa Queen? Anybody heard of Kanafa Queen? Okay, so Kanafa Queen, her name is Fatima. I met her around probably around 2016, 17, around there, right? Okay, and she just won the pie contest, the LA County pie contest, right? So she comes up to me and meets me, and she says to me, Riaz, I need your advice, and how do I become successful? How do I do this, right? So I told her, what you need to do, Fatima, is like, you're very popular on Instagram. You're very you're very funny, and she got a big personality, right? I said just sell it on Instagram. But you have to do 2 things on your pie, on your kanafa. Put it into a pie tin. Okay. And second is, and do mini pie, like on a muffin tray. And do that. Okay. And if you do that, then it's portable, and you can ship it frozen. And I said, just be as big as you can. And I said, how many pie? How many kanafa are you selling now? He said, I'm doing about I do about maybe $1,000 every 3 months. She told me, Actually, I made $300 a month, I said, your goal is to do that in 1 month. Okay, and then after you do that, come back to me. We'll go to step number 2. Okay, so she just came up with some packaging, put a sticker on it, okay, and that's it. Okay, and was it just put in an airtight? I said, don't worry about the initial cost. Just if you can sell a couple of hundred, if you can sell $300 a month, you can do 1,000. That's it. Okay, and there's no additional investment. Just sell that. Okay, and all we want to know is if you can sell it. And then she went out. She was just, ha, 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 like her stuff, style, right? Okay, anyhow, so she did all on DMs and Instagram. That's it. Okay, and then that's one example, right? So it's just to start off small, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Okay, I'll give another example. There's a friend of mine who's heard of Sketchy.com. Sketchy, okay? If you're in medical school, you heard of Sketchy.com, okay? And there's a friend of mine named Saad Siddiqui. He was a USC MSU, okay, and you can look up Sketchy.com. You should even write it down if you want to, right? Okay, it's called Sketchy.com. And what he did was he comes to me around 2012. I did a speech to a bunch of students just like this, okay, and he was a kid that was in medical school, and he was good at, and he told, I want to start a company to doodle your way to medical school. To doodle your way. I want you to be able to doodle your way to medical school, okay, and then. Okay, and he said, so what do you think I should do? I said, just do it. Okay, and are you good at? I said, I'm not good at programming. I said, do you have any friends that are good at programming? He said, I have 2 friends of mine that are really good at programming. Okay, but I'll learn too. But I also want to go to medical school. Anyway, so he just takes his company, starts off really small. He starts learning how to program it, and they're taking his doodling thing, and basically he takes this concept, okay, and keeps growing with it. And I think maybe about 6 months ago, he sold it for $80 million. And he lives in Irvine. Okay, and I went to his wedding. His father was a taxi cab driver out of Torrance. Okay, so I'm just telling you, I saw his journey just from sketching, getting things, slowly building it up. He still went through medical school, and one of the most low-key, unassuming person you ever met in your life. Okay, and he lives in Irvine, and anyhow, but he's a big donor to the community, right? but you will never know who he is. And he doesn't like me talking about him, but I'm only using it in a way to inspire people that. So I think business is like a muscle, like training. You know, when you start building your business muscle, then you can handle anything. It's like a muscle, like anything. It takes courage, you know. And one thing you have to remember, our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was a righteous businessman. And there's a hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam where he said that if you're a righteous businessman, you're associated with martyrs, saints, and I forgot the other one. But you're associated with the best of people. You're associated with martyrs and saints and something else, right? Okay, you're associated with the best of people. Okay, and I think a lot of ways, if you're successful, and the way Islam spread to many different parts of the world was through honest trade. Okay, and so there is something to be said about being righteous in business and pursuing a business perspective, a business approach to life, you know. So.
MashaAllah. And so do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur, or do I have to go into business school and learn entrepreneurship, or how do I do that? And also he was talking about some resources. 5Pi, if you scan this, you sign up to our website, and then you will learn more how we can help you to, if you have any idea, we will be able to help you with some funding and start in if you have any prototypes. And so going back to the question, do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur, and I know you talked about before that you want to be the number one at anything that you do.
Yeah.
What keeps you moving and pushing forward and with all this energy, mashallah?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would say that as far as I think if you have this concept of working hard and praying hard, you're unstoppable. Like in my own life, I'm telling you, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, right? Okay, but the one thing I am is, I always say to myself, no one's going to outwork me or outpray me. So that's it. If you have that kind of combination, because in the end, it depends on you have to truly, you have to walk on Allah and believe in yourself. That's what it comes down to, because in this world is designed to break your heart in some way, because we're diminishing every moment. Think about it. Our cells are going, dying, regenerating, as we're aging every second. Okay, so the reason why this world is designed to break your heart, because we don't belong here. Ultimately, it's designed and so if that's the case, right? So you have to know that this is the spiritual world. There's a metaphysical world and a spiritual world. So if the physical world, you work hard. The spiritual, you pray hard. So if you have those two combinations, you're unstoppable. So that's what I would tell you. So anybody can be a businessman. You can be anything you want. If you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is, you can do whatever you want. Just dominate in the spiritual world and the physical world by being relentless. And there's a very famous I heard this saying, but I don't know who said it. But he said, if you want to be so relentless, or you want Allah to answer your prayers, right? Okay, and you want Allah to earnestly answer your prayers, then you have to earnestly do what He wants. You mean? You know what I mean? So that's because it's a two-way street. That's it. Yeah.
Was there ever? I was wondering, when you're talking about all this. Was there ever a time where you felt very depressed and you wanted to almost to give up on your dreams, and maybe we can take some takeaways from this? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we're all human, right? Okay. We're all human. We go through trials, right? And then but I think one thing. I mean, as far as to answer your question, have I ever been depressed? Yes. Have I ever? But have I ever But I always say to myself, if it's not this problem, it's gonna be another problem. If you think about it, look all the crap that you guys been through in your life. Everyone has their own challenges, right? Family problems, medical problems, money problems, siblings, whatever, right? Everyone's been through some challenge, right? The fact that you're sitting in college today, right now, there's got to be something. I mean, the fact that you're here now, that's look at all the stuff you've been through, and you're still sitting here. All the stuff, immigration, whatever it is, all the stuff that you've gone through in your personal life, your family, everyone has been through some really difficult things, right? Okay, but we're still sitting here. You're still, but that's what's going to happen as you look back on your life, right? Like, like if, you're going to start realizing that and I like what Mark Twain said, every problem I've ever had in my life, every like serious worry I've ever had in my life, I never actualized. Okay, these are all like, in some way, like, I think the fear is, and maybe it never, it's not justified in some way, I guess. It's like, I hope I made myself clear. Am I making myself clear, right? So every fear, for me, anyway, he's got a question, but.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I'm looking at your product on Amazon. I'm looking at your product on Amazon, and I see there's a lot of reviews, mashallah. So I wanted to ask, like, for you competing in like a space on like Amazon and stuff, I know it's really hard in terms of competition and stuff. There's a lot of people that are probably going to sell the same product as you. So what type of way did you go about getting customers to go to your specific product? Was it like through organic? Did you build like a brand? You paid acquisition? What you kind of do in order to have people come in and choose you instead of all the products that people were selling?
Yeah, well, so he's asking a question, why did my products outsell everybody else, right? Okay, and well, I think that's the $1 million question, right? Okay, but the reason why I think we did better than everybody else is because I think a lot of it is that I think the branding was on point. Okay, the branding, it's a white packaging. Okay, and the second was that I basically said that I made a point that a bovine gelatin is better than pork gelatin. Simple as that. Okay, and I make sure it's halal, right? Okay, and then the second is that like if you look at Amazon customer, it's basically it's really a cheap customer, I would say. Okay, so with Amazon, you have perfect information. You can see all the sellers, right? Okay, and there are three things you look at on Amazon. You look at the reviews, you look at the price, and then you look at the pictures. Okay, think about the last thing you bought on Amazon. You look at especially if you're buying something new. First thing you look at the price. Then you look at the reviews, and then you can see, and you read some of the reviews, right? And you look at the pictures, and you want to make your decision, right? So my goal was to make sure I get a lot of reviews, right? Okay, have the best looking pictures on there, okay? And then as far as with Amazon, if you look at the title, it's a big SEO itself, right? So everyone does that. So it's like gluten-free, whatever, halal, okay, grass-fed, all the different terms, right? Okay, and then. Okay, and the way Amazon works, if you're on the first page, right, you're 90% of the sales. And if you're on the second page of Amazon, maybe 10%. If you're on the third or fourth page of Amazon, you don't exist. Okay, so you got to get on that first page, right? So the way you do this, or the way I initially did it was, I said, I'm going to start doing halal. I'm going to own the halal. And what's really remarkable about our business was, I'm talking about around 2021 when I started. There's no halal gelatin, no halal collagen.
Wow, that's pretty recent.
Nobody
ever thought about like making halal gelatin.
Yeah, and you would see other vitamin companies. If you've been to ISNA, Mass, they're focusing on black seed and these things, Okay, and I remember I did I started doing halal gelatin, halal collagen, and I just looked at the search terms. So what you got to do if you want to start your own business, right? Start as a niche product, right? Look for something that's a high search volume. With low competition. Okay, so that's even in any product you do. Okay, so but also to start off as niche. But and what's happening for the first time, and maybe in the last 5 years, halal is becoming serious. It's becoming a serious business. Especially look at halal influencers. It's becoming a serious thing. It's not like I remember back 4 or 5 years, just 4 years ago, 10,000, 3,000. Now these makeup brands like Huda makeup, who's heard of Huda, right? Huda, if I'm correct, millions of followers. So it's becoming. And if you're a Muslim follower, right, a Muslim, you've crossed over it already. You're crossing over to the mainstream. Okay, and anyhow, so you start seeing. So there is a lot of growth in the halal industry, right? But it's not still there yet. We still got room to grow, right? But I think it's getting serious. Get to the point where. Go ahead.
What would you say is like the best way of kind of getting sales? Is it having UGC content or doing paid ads or just having something that, because what you're saying right now, it's like from what you're saying is like the product was really special. That's why I set up because it was halal, right? Is
Well, that initially, my product already crossed over from halal. Most of my customers are not Muslims. Okay, I say 95% are not Muslim. 5% there is, right? And I'm making more inroads to dominate in more the halal space. And anyhow, so initially I think it was price. The price was there, right? Okay, and the second was, but to be honest with you, I'll be truly honest with you. I don't know. I don't know why. And in fact, Amazon told me, I did an interview with Amazon. They said they've never seen a company do it so fast, so short. And I'm bidding billion-dollar brands. There's a brand called Knox, Vital Protein. Who's heard of Vital Protein? Vital Protein is a Zionist company, by the way. So if you're buying Vital Protein from Costco, it's a pure Zionist company. So that's what FYI. Guess what? You know that. Okay. And anyhow,
Good to know.
Huh?
Good
Yeah, it's a pure Zionist. Okay. So anyhow, but I'm bidding it. We're bidding billion-dollar brands, right? Okay, and then so like my goal is to get to 100,000 units a month. Okay. So and I'm getting up there, right? Okay. So now I get 30,000 people. But to answer your question, like I don't do any Facebook ads. I don't do Instagram ads. Yeah.
What were you trying to get to?
My goal is to get to 100,000 units a month. Okay, and we're about 30,000 units a month right now, 35,000.